pretty well all my life. Like, as far as having high school education from grade 10 to grade 12, I never really had it, eh? I quit in grade 10. When I quit school or whatever, you could get a job anywhere, right? I mean, jobs were so plentiful and stuff like that. And basically, back then, it wasn't how much education you had, it was whether you're willing to work or not. But my biggest downfall was I could never, ever better myself because of my education. And what I ended up doing was working about 60 hours a week just to make a 40-hour week wage. You know, and I did that all my life. When I think of it, I think, how much time I lost, even with my family life because of my education. When they announced that they would be closing the mill for at least a year, more than likely be permanent to go out looking for work, I knew I was really in big trouble. I was over the age of 50, and I never had high school education, so I knew it was going to be so hard to find a job because it's now in day and age, no one wants you unless you got the minimum grade 12. Thoughts were going through my head of going back to school or whatever, and then it was about a week after the announcement, my son come home one night. He was only in grade 4 at the time, and he said, "Dad, will you help me with my homework?" And I said, "Sure." So we sit down, and I, did his math. And, I mean, everything has changed since I went to school. But when we finished, I said, "I hope this is right." So the next day, he comes home from school, and that evening I said to him, "How did you make out with that math?" And, I mean, it didn't seem to bother him, or he didn't say anything, but he said, "I got it all wrong." That's when my story really started. So I decided I would, there was an adult learning center in Salisbury, not too far from where I live, eh? And the opportunity came, the government decided they, would, when anybody from the mill that wanted to go back to school to get their education, that they would try and help us out. And myself and a few other members from where I worked, along with other people, went back to school. It wasn't just a cut dry thing, just go to school. Like, I had to face reality. I had to, people were going to find out about your education and everything, and what are they going to think and stuff like that, eh? It's completely wrong because I was amazed, the support I got. What I did, I went back to school and I worked part-time at a grocery store right where I live, eh? And the word, I mean, you're in a small community, the word soon gets out what you're doing. And I was amazed at people I didn't even know that came in and, I said, I was never hugged so much in all my life by these women. And to go to school, they tested me. They test everybody. And no matter where you quit in school, it's where they put you at a level when they test you. And with me, some of my subjects were equivalent to grade 10, some were only equivalent to grade 7. Much to my surprise, I passed everything but my math. So what I did was I continued to work part-time. I was determined nothing was going to stop me. Amazing, when I got my marks back, I had passed my math, but it was my highest mark. That was quite an accomplishment to me. But I think what really made it worthwhile was the following year, my son come home with an award for finishing with honors. I really feel that me going back to school helped encourage him on the education part. Now I'm able to sit down and do his math, with understanding it, no problem. So that was a big blessing. A lot of them feel that they can't do it. Yeah, they're embarrassed as part of it, and part of it is your figure that, I've been out of school so long, I can't do that because everything has changed, eh? It's a mistake we all make because I'll tell you, I was very fortunate. When I went back to school, the teacher we had was one of the most excellent teachers you could have. She was more than just a teacher. She was a friend. She would help you in any way, no matter if it was schooling, it could be some kind of financial problem, it could be some kind of problem or whatever. She was always there for you, eh? I know what I went through in life. Really, I know the difference between not having an education and having an education, what it does for what it will do for you. I figure that if I can encourage even one person either to go back to school or continue staying in school, that, like it's worth all your while. While I went back to school, the Literacy Coalition Board of New Brunswick offered what they called was, and it was the first year they had offered it, was what they call a SOUL project, SOUL, and what it stands for is Speaking Out, Utilizing Learners. This is how it all started with me, and shortly after I took the course or whatever, what they were going to do, they would, if they wanted someone to speak with, say, with myself that was close to my area, they'd get a hold of me. So I ended up going and speaking quite a bit for them at the beginning. And then what happened was the board decided they had wanted one or two learners on the board. When I went to school, all the government offered, gas prices were sky high, 15 cents a kilometer. It didn't even cover my gas. For me to go to school, I was losing money. When I first started, they said they'd cover my gas. So when I applied for it, then they said, no, you have to be at grade 10 level or we don't cover it. For the first while, till I brought my marks up to a grade 10 level, I couldn't get gas mileage. And another thing was the fact of not being able to write whenever you were ready. With me, there was only 2 or 3 times a year I could write. I would apply, but not necessarily I'd get to write then. If there was enough seats, I got to write. If there wasn't enough seats, you had to wait to the next term. Well, one of the biggest things I've learned, you're never too old. Everybody has a right to learn. Everybody has. I don't care who you are or what, if you have any kind of disability, anything, you still have a right to learn. Don't be embarrassed. I know what I had gone through, the fact of embarrassment a little bit, what people are going to think and stuff like that, and really, it's crazy to think that way, but it's hard to tell people that because I went through the same thing. The support is out there. It really is. It's amazing because it's completely opposite of what you think.